is Kurtis Minder. I'm the CEO of GroupSense and the author of Cyber Recon. If you're watching this video, you probably clicked on a QR code in the book. You really shouldn't be clicking on things. This is a test. You failed. But if you clicked on this QR code, you know you're talking to Taylor Banks. I've picked people deliberately to profile in the book that have impacted the industry, cybersecurity industry in a meaningful way, or impacted me in my career in a meaningful way. Taylor's done both of those things. Hey, Taylor, thank you for being here. And
Thanks so much for having me.
yeah, and it looks like your office is awesome.
It's not bad. Today, sunshine and palm trees, which,
Nice.
given that it's February, I can't complain.
Oh, you're doing life right. Well, introduce yourself to the web guests and tell us a little bit about what you
Um,
do.
my name is Taylor Banks. I have spent just about 30 years now in the cybersecurity industry. Back in the days when we swore we'd never call it cybersecurity. Um, and yet here we are. A lot of my focus in the space has been on not just security, but on privacy and anonymity. And so I think, a lot of my career I've spent on helping people not just protect security of information, but also privacy of information. And that's both at the individual level and also at the corporate level. So, I've done this work for, Fortune 500 enterprise, all the way down to Bob. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the short version. I've been doing cyber for a long time. I consider it a true passion of mine. I really believe that the work we do in the cybersecurity industry is, without hyperbole, some of the most important work on the planet and for the future of our species. That sounds hyperbolic, but I really believe it's true, and it's why I'm here, and it's why I've been doing this for so long.
And it couldn't be more true than it is today, man. And every day it seems like it's becoming more and more poignant around how important this is and how much awareness there still is to build. Like you'd think by now, but people would get it. But there's still a lot of education to be done, and I appreciate that you've been a mentor to me, and you've also been materially involved in some of the work we've done at GroupSense. I appreciate that, and I also think you're an interesting professional because you're not just a technical person. You can speak in front of audiences. You can write code. You can do marketing. You've done a little bit of all of this, which is fascinating. Also, just a fun story, you apparently can break into office buildings. And so for the audience, Taylor and I had done a meeting in New York and no, this one was in Denver, I think. When was it in Denver? So we had
Hmm.
some meetings in
Denver.
Denver and he managed to somehow with his Flipper Zero copy the master card from the key card from the guy at the front desk and maybe maybe could get into some places he wasn't supposed to be. And then I think you like when we were in New York, I think you copied my room key card, didn't you? Did you do that?
I did, which
Yeah.
yeah, and it proved fortuitous when you weren't at your room, and I had to kind of help you get things moved from one room to another midst of our trip. So
Yeah,
yeah,
so
having
so
a
I got appendicitis in the middle of the night and went to the hospital and I texted him and Taylor shows up with all the stuff from my hotel room. And I was like, how did you get the hotel to convene? He's like, I didn't. I was like, oh, well, yeah. Anyway. Uh, well, actually, I'll throw a curveball into the story real quick in a case where you didn't succeed in the lie. Do you remember? So Taylor and I belonged to this group we called the board, and we would pool our money and we'd get together and we'd do these like mastermind sessions, a bunch of hacker guys, a bunch of DEF CON people. In one year, I was on a cross-country motorcycle trip and I arrived at the Airbnb that we were renting before everyone else. And I had been on the road for maybe a couple weeks on my motorcycle, sleeping in tents, and like I smelled terrible. I'd been eating beans out of a can or whatever. And the first thing I did is I got a bottle of wine and a bunch of sushi. I ate all the sushi, drank probably the whole bottle of wine, which I shouldn't have, and then went into one of the bedrooms and went to sleep. Do you remember this?
I do, I very well.
So there was multiple bedrooms, but the bedroom that I chose to crash in, drunk and full of sushi, was the one that had double beds, and I locked the door behind me. So the next morning, I'm up early like I usually am, and I'm making break. And Taylor was the first person to come out, and he told me he was angry at me because I had taken the room that he was supposed to share with me and locked the door. And at the time, you were running Ace Hackware, which, uh, for everybody else's benefit, sells lock picks. And I
Amongst other
told you,
things.
you
It's
remember I
tools for
told
red
you
teamers.
for red teamers. So I told you, I was like, I will accept criticism from anyone in the world, but you. That's funny.
Maybe it was just because I was courteous and I didn't
Yeah.
want to break into the room.
Mm, you,
But
you,
it's a pretty sad excuse considering that.
you sort of withheld your powers for,
Yeah,
and
that's
we'll
right.
come back to that topic in a second. But so obviously, aside from your mission, breaking into my hotel room and various office buildings, like what else do you work on? Like what's you I know I mentioned you do all these things on the tech side. You're also an EMT and firefighter too. So you're involved in a lot of stuff. So kind of like what are you about? What's your mission in life kind of?
It's tough to boil that down in a concise way, but I think ultimately, Curtis, it comes back to people, and I think it's the thing that I've been so passionate about in the cybersecurity space for so long. I really look at cybersecurity not as a technology business, or not as a technology industry, but as a people industry. At the end of the day, what you and I are doing, and the reason that I believe we do this, is for the people that we protect, not the information. We call
Amen.
this industry information security, but I think it's really people security. And
Hmm.
oftentimes we are protecting people from themselves. I think, there's a lot of things we do in this space where, we're using technology um, because people didn't pay attention to the early warnings, right? The best negotiation tactic is not to have to negotiate at all.
Hmm.
But, that's too often we find ourselves on the other side of that. And so I think ultimately it's the same reason that I became a firefighter and an EMT. I did that really also as I really leaned into focusing on mental health, myself and my peers and the community at large, and that led me to the fire department. It's only been 3 years that I've been working as a volunteer firefighter and as an EMT, but I very quickly fell in love with the space for much the same reason, right? It's
Right.
about helping people, and I feel like the work we do in cybersecurity in a lot of ways is a lot like being a firefighter. It takes a certain amount of not just grit and determination, but also willingness to do things that most other people aren't willing to do. A lot of other people aren't able to do.
Yeah.
It's work that is
Well,
often grueling and emotionally taxing.
to your point, and like in other videos, I've talked a lot about how the cybersecurity industry has purpose.
Mhm.
It has a purpose behind it. Very motivating to have a purpose. I think firefighting and EMT stuff is purpose driven as well. One of the parallels I think that that should be drawn there is that you didn't just like put on an EMT shirt or a firefighter shirt and like start showing up for fires, right? You had to practice, and they made
Oh yeah.
you had to be really good at what you did before they let you try to, put the ladder on the first window. And I think that's a mission too in cybersecurity, is like we've got a alleged talent gap here where we don't have enough uh, cyber fighters. How do we get them the practice, and how do we get them trained up? And you've done some of that. You've run training companies, right?
Yeah, I have, and that's a part of the industry that I'm probably the most passionate about. Is really well. I think there's two sides of that. There's training and there's mentorship, right? And I think mentorship really matters. You said that I was a mentor to you, and I feel the same very mutually. You've been a mentor to me throughout the course of the time that I've known you, and I think, like I said, mentorship matters. This field grows by passing knowledge down and by training people up, and I think those are very closely related, and I believe that done right, done effectively. And it's the same is true in the firefighting space. There's a lot you can learn from reading the books, but the reality is it's the experiential training that makes a difference. And so I
Right.
think through that combination of experiential training and good mentorship, having people that believe in you and can really pass on some of the knowledge that only comes through real world, direct involvement in the field, it's how we can best enable the people that are new to either industry, right?
Right.
Whether these folks are coming into firefighting or coming into cybersecurity, the best thing we can do is empower them through knowledge and mentorship. But, at the end of the day, the tools change, but the mindset doesn't.
Right.
So I think, giving people the right mindset and giving people um, the knowledge and the mental capability to be able to go out and fight fires, literal or figurative,
Right.
I think is really critical.
Yeah, and I think just to tie this back into some of the book topics in cyber recon, much of the book is about this sort of cyber espionage industry where we're observing the adversary
Mhm.
and learning about their tools and tactics. And I'll go back to where you were talking about how you withheld your powers to not wake me up in the bedroom, but like we've often joked about when we're observing. I think you joked about it first, where we're observing these threat actors and saying, I could do it better. And it's a good thing we use our powers for good, right? Like, but we've seen
Absolutely.
we've seen a bunch of the inside of these threat actors mechanisms and been sometimes underwhelmed.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. We've both been in this space long enough that you recognize sometimes how unsophisticated a lot of the attackers really are, and it reinforces the fact that, with the right combination of skills and tools, somebody can be, crazy, crazy dangerous. But most of the time, that's not really even what's happening. Um, hackers aren't breaking in, they're logging in. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
it's not super sophisticated. And like you said, the reality is we are lucky, our friends, our peers, our clients and partners are lucky that we have morals and ethics because, again, armed with the tools and the knowledge and the experience that we have, I could think of a million ways to do this better.
Right.
Admittedly, that's not a challenge, but at the same time, I think it does. It really underscores the fact that, a fairly significant percentage of the time, if not the majority of the time, I think the attacks are fairly unsophisticated and
Almost
performed by people that
commoditized. Yeah, many of them
absolutely people that don't have 30 years in this industry. They've got maybe three.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
So like, obviously you've done a lot throughout your career. You've played so many different roles. You've got your sort of balance firefighting career for your mental health. Like what's next for you? What are you going to do next?
Oh boy, next. I don't know. I guess that's always I'm always scanning the horizon, so to speak.
Right.
I'm having a lot of fun right now. I really, I think a huge part of what fills me up the most is that continuing mentorship. So I am constantly trying to find new and interesting ways to help bring more talent into this industry. So whatever is next, I am sure that it will be very closely related to bringing new blood
Education.
into
Yep.
the industry. Yeah,
Mentorship.
education, mentorship, sharing, community. I've been a community builder. I built DC 404 back in 2003, and it
Right.
remains, I think, one of the most thriving cybersecurity communities, even around the globe, which is a phenomenal
Impressive.
achievement. And that's, it's been 22 years, and that group, that community remains very, very strong and very committed, and so. I like doing things like that. I like building community. I like speaking at conferences. I like mentoring young people. So whatever I'm doing next, I'm sure it will encompass several or all aspects of the above.
Right. And I just want to thank you for allowing me to profile you in the book. Hopefully young new practitioners will read the book, they'll click on the QR code. I'll make fun of them for doing that, and then they'll watch this video and learn a little bit more about you and your background. So thank you so much for your time and for making time out of your palm tree day to spend it with me.
I love it. I'm entirely honored. The privilege is all mine. It's been a delight to be able to be a part of this process, and I'm very excited to be included in this series. So thank you very much for allowing me to share the space with you, Curtis.
All right, thank you, Taylor. If you haven't read the book, if you come across this some other way, the book is Cyber Recon. You can get it at Barnes and Noble. You can get it on Amazon or your local bookstore. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Thank you.